Hello and welcome to this edition of Focus, a program produced by the Department of Disaster Management, DDM. I'm your host, Fiona Alexander Smith, Information and Education Manager at the DDM. Before I introduce the topic for this edition, I want you to start thinking about your answers to some very important questions about your ability to cope and take action in times of distress. If an emergency or disaster impacts you or your community, would you know what to do? Would you be able to cope and be of assistance to others? Do you have the skills that could make a difference between life and death? If you've answered no to any of these questions, then you need to pay close attention to this edition of Focus, as my guest and I speak about building personal and community resilience through the establishment of Community Emergency Response Teams, CERT. The reality is that you or members of your community are usually the first persons on the scene of an accident or an emergency that has occurred within your neighborhood. Therefore, you may need to provide critical support until trained medical help and professional first responders arrive. This is exactly what CERT is all about, training people to be better prepared to respond to emergency situations. The Department of Disaster Management has been partnering with the BVI Red Cross and Virgin Islands Fire and Rescue Service to provide this training opportunity in communities across the territory. To date, there are CERT volunteers in Anegada, Virgin Gorda, Just Van Dyke, Cane Garden Bay and Brewers Bay, Carrot Bay, West End, Seacoast Bay, Humptomscott, Purcell, and East End. With that said, allow me to welcome the panelists for this edition. Disaster Risk Reduction Officer at the BVI Red Cross, Jason Lyons. CERT volunteer and trainer, Donette Matthew. And CERT volunteer and trainer as well, Ray Victor, who is with the West End CERT team. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, in my introduction, let's start with you, Mr. Lyons. In my introduction, I provided a quick overview about CERT, but I want you to give me more details about what CERT is, how was it developed internationally, and its development here in the BVI.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on your program, Fiona. In 1985, the City of Los Angeles Fire Department realized, after attending to many disasters or emergencies in their communities in Los Angeles, that the community, the people on the ground, are the first, obviously, to be on scene when there's an incident. So they decided, you know what, let's train these guys so that they can respond to their emergencies in their community on their own. And that took speed. When they did it, the other fire departments across America did it. And then the Federal Emergency Management Agency said, you know what, let's sort of formalize this process and make it into this thing called the Community Emergency Response Teams, CERT. When FEMA came into it, it became a more international thing because, you know, around the world, disaster management authorities they all work together with FEMA and all the other authorities on disaster management. And so it started to spread from there. And so the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency in the Caribbean, our FEMA in the Caribbean, so to speak, CDEMA, they took it on board and they started to train the trainers sessions. One was held in Montserrat, another was held in Grenada, and I was fortunate to be part of that train the trainers in Grenada. And coming off of that, we decided to continue spreading it across the region. The BVI had persons there trained in Grenada as trainers, namely your Community Relations Officer, Cecil Jeffrey, and Ms. Karishma Hicks were trainers there. And, you know, coming out of that, persons, it started to spread like wildfire across the Caribbean. So now in numerous countries across the Caribbean, you have CERT. The DDM, in collaboration with Red Cross, as you mentioned earlier, have been working to provide or bring CERT training to the communities across the BVI. And so far, as you mentioned, we have a number of communities that have CERT. And this continues to grow. It continues to happen. And we hope that we have more persons coming on board to become CERT technicians as well as CERT trainers.
Is there any actual documented proof that CERT volunteers contribute to disaster reduction and community resilience?
Many.
Share some of those
I don't even know which ones to share because I might be in trouble.
Okay.
Because I might share one and then another community say, well, how come you didn't share our experience? But let me try to share some. For instance, let's use Western. Western CERT was trained sometime last year, I believe, and they are now the ones spearheading the process of implementing projects in their community. They organized the community, came out, had meetings, and pinpointed some of the issues they've had, and now with the help of Red Cross and DDM, we're finding solutions for these issues. They're now in the process of setting up something called a Satellite Emergency Operations Center, which was allocated space by the community development, or social development, sorry, in the community center. And this is going to be primarily manned by the CERT, and they're going to be housing equipment and resources and stuff that they need for disaster risk reduction in their community. Also response efforts. So for instance, if something should happen, it could be a car accident to being hit by a tsunami or being hit by an earthquake, whatever. They, the CERT team, have the resources, some of the resources they might need to assist the community in recovering a lot quicker. Let's use another example, maybe Purcell, the Rotang CERT, which was trained in 2013. They, in 2014, when we were expecting the impact from a storm, they decided to get together and deliver sandbags to the homes in Purcell that normally get affected by flooding. So they fill up some sandbags, and they went out into the community, actually deliver these house to house, delivering that. So you see, it's a number of different things that could happen. They can reduce risk, and they can also respond to events when they happen.
Right. So clearly the program has been beneficial here in the BBI.
Definitely.
Are members of the public receptive to it? Do you find that they are coming on board and volunteering or signing up to be CERT members?
Even if I tell you, it's sometimes we have too many persons. Sometimes, I remember when we did a CERT in East End, we had 32 persons coming out for training, and that's astounding because really a CERT team should only have 6 people, or it's around 6 people in for a team. So then basically, if at East End you have a number of teams forming that big team, right, in East End. So yes, it's been very receptive in every community we've gone to. We've had persons coming out and joining on board and being part of it. And I always say, we go there and the training is supposed to end at around 8 o'clock because we start like 5:36 and it's supposed to end at 6. And at 8, and sometimes we end up about 12 o'clock, at the community center having training. And that just goes to show how much interest you have from community members in the CERT program. And
what's the rationale behind restricting the number of persons that could actually be involved in a team?
Well, not really restricting, but for any operational team going out in the field, you don't want to have too many persons on board in one operation. So, and attending to one issue in one particular area. So you can have many units in a CERT, in a community that forms a wider CERT team. So, you have that 6 persons going on, they go on this, they know their task is to complete this one over here, unit 2 goes to that task, and so you divide it up, all right? So the numbers really doesn't mean that we have too much people. You can never have too much people. It just means that we're going to break it into smaller units, and the units act by themselves when they're responding or when they're reducing risk in the community.
All right, thanks for explaining that. What are some of the topics, skills, and techniques that persons can learn in the CERT program?
So there are really 9 modules, right? The first one is disaster preparedness. And as I mentioned, it's not, even though CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team, their role is not just response. They do a lot of preparedness work as well. Right? And that's why disaster preparedness is one of the first units that they cover. So they learn about what disasters are, what hazards are, and how can they reduce risk and build resilience in the community. Right? You have fire safety and prevention. So the CERT members are trained in how to encourage the community to reduce causing fires, preventing fires from occurring, and they're also trained in how to extinguish fires in case they happen. Right? And these are not, we're not talking about a whole building on fire. We're speaking about small domestic fires, in a house, a little bin or something like that. Because you have the fire service there for that, and they're trained how to use extinguishers and that sort of a thing. Right? Then you have disaster medical operations. Unit 3 and Unit 4 are disaster medical operations. And as you would imagine, that's why they put it in 2 units. It's dealing with how do you treat someone, the medical treatment given to someone that is being rescued or someone that needs attention. So we go through first aid and CPR and all that stuff, and we go a little bit further, dealing with things that the first aid and CPR might not cover, right? Casualty extrication, casualty packaging, that sort of a thing. And this is one of the fun areas, I think the biggest fun area in the CERT training, because we on a nightly basis, when persons receive the training, we put them through the rigors of testing the training that they learned. So you have to bandage somebody, you have to splint somebody, you have to put somebody on a backboard and carry them through the bushes or carry them over a vehicle or under a vehicle or whatever needs to happen. Because in the real life, this is what necessarily happens. Then we bring them to the light search and rescue. This is where the team members learn how to find someone, how to conduct a search in the community. And this is another area, I know you asked me this question before, but this is another area where we see CERT is being used a lot in the BVI. You have a number of persons that are maybe suffer from dementia and other illnesses like that, and they walk off, and you find that families have to go looking for them. And so the community comes out to look for them. And CERT now gets called out to go look for them, and you find that a lot of times they go out and help the families find these people in the community, right? So that's one other area. And then you have CERT organization, which is dealing with how the CERT unit is set up and how does the CERT tie into the incident command system, which exists in the BVI, right? And the other two units after that deal with testing the CERT members and also evaluating their skills that they've been trained in conducting a simulation exercise. So we run the simulation exercise at the end, and the CERT team get to use the skills that they have practically and hone their skills to be able to serve and build resilience in their community.
Right. Now, hearing all these topics and all the skills, and I want to switch to the two volunteers and trainers and just get your insights into the training itself. How would you describe it in terms of the level of intensity and your overall development?
First, the level of intensity from being a trainee, it was actually more of a team. We was all putting our heads together trying to work out different ways to solve the problem, how to get each and everyone involved. But as a trainer now, it was like more, like we actually experienced a little, we was pushed to the limit, if you could say. So the intensity as a trainer was more intense than being a trainee.
Right. You sort of touched on the follow-up question, but before I get to that, I want you, Ms. Matthew, to give me your explanation or your insight into the training.
In terms of the level, I would say it varies because, as Jason mentioned, we dealt with different units such as fire safety, and you have CPR, you have the different aspects. So it really depends on which area that you're working on and how much physical, mental, ability that you need to put into each of these. So sometimes on a level from 1 to 10, 10 being most intense, like I say, it varies because sometimes you find yourself, especially for the search and rescue section of the course, I mean, that's really, really intense. So like it varies.
Right. And in terms of your overall development, how has the CERT training contributed to that?
For me, I have grown. I have gained a lot of knowledge in terms of being able to help not only my family, but members of the community when there's cases of, emergency or incidents happening. It's just so much. I mean, even I am a very, very shy person. Now I find myself being able to prepare presentation, standing up in front of an audience per se, and presenting. It's a lot that you gain from the program.
Right, that's good to hear. That it's not just development in terms of learning the skills, but actually bringing you out of your shell as well and helping you to explore other areas. Now, Victor, you started to speak about the comparison between the CERT training and the train the trainers training, and you're saying that the train the trainers training is more intense.
Yeah,
How
of
so?
course. Because you actually start to understand why you're doing what you're doing. So as a trainee, you just listen to Jason, hey, this is how you do, that's how you do it. And you're really not thinking, like, why the reason behind at the moment. But now as a trainer now, we more in depth So we actually break down, analyze, and you actually know.
I beg to differ.
Okay.
For me, CERT 101, which was the initial training, for me that was more intense. After every unit, we had hands-on activities to reinforce what was being taught that evening. Whereas the trainer, that focus was on preparing presentation and being able to present that to your audience. We did some physical activity, but more so, it was a lot of paperwork. And I remember having to go home at nights, no matter how late we had to prepare for the next night and so on. So the physical aspect wasn't there as much as in the first course, but it was a lot of paperwork. It was being able to work as a team, as a team leader, and also as a team member. So that's in terms of trainer. Yeah. So like I said, I find that the first course was more vigorous than the trainer.
Okay.
Because at that time you would have already completed that first section successfully. So you didn't need to go over some of those,
Right.
So you just build on what you learned then.
I think what Donna said earlier really stands out here. She said she grew.
Yeah.
So maybe from when she did the first one, she grew so strong that when she did the work in the trainer, it was easy. Yeah.
That could be it. That could be it. All right. Now, to become a CERT volunteer, you essentially have to simply register with the DDM or the BVI Red Cross, and of course undertake the training. Are there any special requirements for persons who want to go on to do the train the trainers program?
Not necessarily. What we did for the train the trainer program is that we looked for persons that were outstanding in their performance one, and then persons that had the thrill, the excitement. They were enthusiastic about the whole thing. So in every training you find there are persons that they're there and they take part in the training, but they're happy to be finished. These guys, some of the Donnet and Victor and so on, they wanted to do more. They were like, when can we do something? They want to come to the next training. They want to do this. They want to that. And so you take that enthusiasm and then turn it into becoming a trainer, and then you will find that the trust is there.
Right. So is it that the facilitators will select those from the group from CERT 101?
That is the intention. The intention is to the trainers like myself, Ms. Hicks, Mr. Jeffrey, Miss Innes. The objective is to sort of hand it over to these guys, and then they will run with it and bring the next trainers into the fold and train them, and it will continue growing and hopefully snowball into the whole BVI being CERT members.
Yes, that's the ultimate.
That's the ultimate objective.
Yes, it is. In terms of the actual length of time for the training, the CERT 101 and the train the trainers.
Okay, so the CERT 101 training, formally, if you go online, because there are a lot of stuff about it online, you will see that it takes a few weeks, full day courses throughout the week, right? But what we realize in the Caribbean is it's very hard to get persons to come out during the day, leave work, and come to this training for a few weeks. So what we do, especially in the BVI, we've compressed it and sort of played with it and modeled it in such a way that we do it on evenings. So it's for a week long, every evening, from 5:30 to 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock officially. But I'm telling you, it never ends at 8 o'clock because everybody gets so enthusiastic about it. It goes on sometimes about 12 o'clock, right? But it is supposed to end at 8 o'clock. So that's it for the CERT 101, to be a CERT member, all right? The CERT TOT, I think that one ran for, a week or 2 weeks?
4 days.
4 days of intense sessions, night and day. And for the CERT TOT, a lot of the work is on the participants and a lot less on the facilitators. Because at this point, they are now delivering to and being assessed by the facilitators.
Right. Now, Jason, I know you would have spoken about persons going missing, and sometimes CERT members have to become involved in the search. So to the volunteers and trainers, have you been able to put your skills to use since you've been trained? And if so, how have you been able to use those skills?
I haven't been able to use it as yet, but some of the guys in the Best in the West SORT team, they'd been to the search for the young lady.
Okay.
I was not able to make it to that.
Okay.
But it had a couple of accidents. I actually never got a chance to put it to work.
Okay, but of course, if the situation arises, you'll be ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for me, I was able to assist the team that went to King Garden Bay, I did a presentation there in terms of the role of CERT members. And I also accompanied the team to North Sound, Virgin Gorda, and I did a presentation there as well.
Okay, great.
If I don't say this, Fiona, I'm going to get words from now until next year.
Okay. We wouldn't
CERT,
want that.
Yeah, we wouldn't want that. CERT and GADA. Now, they were one of the first CERTs to be trained, and they have been mighty active.
Yeah.
As we all know, in Anegada, there's a clinic, and it's a pretty big place for 300 people. And they now have been attending to multiple emergencies. I mean, bike crashes, scooter crashes, vehicle accidents. When we have simulations there with the airport authority or health services authority, they are the ones that are doing a lot of the main work on the ground. So it's amazing to see how CERT has been rolled out and developed, especially in the sister islands like Anegada and Jos Van Dyke and so on,
Okay.
and in Fiji.
Right. So, but in the situations where persons are not able to actually put their skills to use, one of the concerns persons have is that they might actually forget what they have learned. How do you go about ensuring that that doesn't happen? Is there a system in place for that?
There is.
Okay.
There are systems in place.
Okay.
As Donna just mentioned,
Yeah.
as a trainer,
Yeah.
they go ahead and run the trainings. That's one. As CERT members, we encourage them to come out to when we're running CERT trainings. So they can come. So if we do Western CERT can come to when we're doing the next training, for instance, if we do it in Seacoast Bay, they can come there and take part in the training there and help in the evaluation of the persons when we have this CERT. I think that you guys would have been to that, right? So that is something we do continue doing. Every CERT can come to the new CERT and help out with the training and help out with the evaluation when we're doing the scenarios every night. They can do that. Also, a key component of CERT is, apart from the response side, is disaster preparedness, risk reduction, which is something going on every day. And we encourage the CERT to get into your community and reduce risk how you can, either by helping cleaning the drains or giving material on what needs to happen to reduce a particular hazard. Any way you can reduce any risk in your community, please go out. And what's good about CERT, it does not have to be activated by government or by Red Cross that's why it's a community organization.
Right.
They can see something in their community, activate and say, hey guys, let's go deal with the situation. Because a lot of the times, you might be cut off from communication with government, DDM or Red Cross. So you can work on your own. But as soon as you get back up in communications, let DDM know, hey, we activated and we're helping out in a particular situation here. And that's the real core of CERT, being able to work as a community on your own.
Great.
Right, and in addition to what Jason said, we can also, in terms of refresher courses or getting your first aid skills together,
Every year.
Red Cross does training every
month.
Right, every month, probably the second Saturday.
Thursday and Saturday
right.
every month.
So yes, we can go to those trainings that we could, refresh our skills, and also the fire department when they have open house, we could go and,
Additionally, thanks for mentioning that, Donna. Additionally, there is a system where we refresh every CERT every year. So, for instance, we just recently concluded refreshing JVD, Jos Van Dyke CERT, and Virgin Gorda CERT. And so we continue to do that. As we go through the year, we're going to be refreshing every CERT as their calendar time for refreshing comes up every year.
Right. You're right. We've said a lot. Final comments at this point.
Well, I see CERT as something really great for the community. And once we work together, we could reduce the risk, as Jason keeps mentioning. And it's really good. I'm proud to be part of CERT also.
Good.
Yes, for me, CERT is very important. Anyone can become CERT members, and that's important because it focuses on, we know that persons have different learning styles, and one of the things that we learned during our Train the Trainer program is that when you're doing your presentation, you have to cater for the different learning styles. So like I say, anyone can feel free to join CERT. Very important program, very beneficial to individuals.
We have CERT members from the age of about 15. I think the eldest person is probably about 65, right? So, as Donna said, anybody could be part of CERT. Persons with disabilities can be part of CERT. there's no particular restriction.
Okay.
Get involved. The next CERT we're going to be having is going to be in Seacoast Bay. We have not set a date for it yet, but I believe it's going to be either in September or October. So if persons are interested, we encourage them to come out, participate in the CERT, and be part of that CERT in Seacoast Bay.
Right, and thank you all for being here today, and hopefully the information you shared here would motivate persons to actually register for CERT. All right? You're welcome. We'll now take a break for a message which highlights what we have been discussing on the program.
CERT, your Community Emergency Response Team. The CERT program educates people about disaster preparedness and trains them in basic emergency response skills, such as home and fire suppression safety, light search and rescue, life-saving emergency medical operations, and team organization skills. Training to accomplish the greatest good for the greatest number. When a major disaster happens, it will overwhelm local emergency response capability. CERT members can apply essential first response training learned in the classroom and from real-life exercises to give critical support to family, neighbors, and our community until help arrives.
Welcome back to Focus. Personal and community resilience is the general theme for the program. We just discussed community emergency response teams, CERT, and how they have been contributing to disaster risk reduction in the BVI. With any disaster risk reduction initiative, we must involve children and young people because research has shown that children are more vulnerable to the effects of hazard impacts and emergencies and should be prepared to cope and respond should the need arise. Additionally, we want disaster risk reduction to become a way of life and be embedded within our culture. In light of this, a teen CERT program for students from age 14 to 18 years was developed and piloted in 2014 and included students from the Cedar International School, Elmore Stout High School, St. George's Secondary School, and the BVI Seventh-day Adventist School. Schools interested in the Teen CERT program are encouraged to contact the DDM. And we are also working to increase preparedness within the business community. Through our partnership with the Rotary Club of Rowtown, we have been offering business emergency response training. BERT was developed to build resilience within the business community. The training is designed to equip members of the business sector with the skills needed to be able to respond and cope with emergency situations which may arise. BERT has been adapted from CERT. We'll now break for more information on BERT in this message. If an emergency arises at work, would you know how to respond, what to do, or where to go? Not knowing how to react when faced with an emergency at work can cause panic, chaos, and even loss of life. This is why Business Emergency Response Training, BERT, should be a required course for staff development. The Department of Disaster Management, DDM, encourages you to register for our 15-hour BERT course. Understanding the National Disaster Management System, evacuation planning, fire suppression, fire safety in the workplace, basic first aid and CPR, and introduction to damage assessment are some of the topics covered in the training. The training is facilitated by the DDM in collaboration with the BVI Red Cross and the Virgin Islands Fire and Rescue Service. Call 468 4200 for more information or to register for the BERT course. Register for $80 to gain skills to last a lifetime. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Focus. I am Fiona Alexander-Smith, Information and Education Manager at the DDM. Join me next time for another edition on CBN Television and on 90.9 FM.